Stocks on Wall Street end higher with all the three indices closing at or near record highs despite the job worries and the looming inflation reports. The Dow Jones surges over 200 points. The Asian markets have also opened largely higher as investors await key August inflation data from China. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a positive start for our own markets. The US President Donald Trump says that India and the US are continuing trade negotiations, adds that he will be speaking to Prime Minister Modi in the coming weeks, but also asks the European Union to hit China and India with tariffs of up to 100% for purchasing Russian oil. Crude prices settle higher after the Israeli military said that it has carried out an attack on the Hamas leadership in the Qatari capital of Doha. Gold prices have also hit record highs on hopes of outsized Fed rate cuts. Apple announces the launch of the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 17 Pro, apart from a game-changer, slimmer iPhone Air and a new variant of the AirPods that feature live translation. Prices in India for the iPhone begin from 82,900 rupees and go up to as high as 2,30,000 rupees. Nepal plunges into political uncertainty with Prime Minister KP Oli resigning after violent protests over corruption and a social media ban that has left 22 people dead, including the former Prime Minister's wife. Nepal's army takes control of Kathmandu airport. India has appealed for calm. And amidst all of this, we are back with a fresh new edition of Power Breakfast. Wish you all a good morning. Coming to you live from the Mumbai News Centre, I am Hormis Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off. And it is a positive start, continuing from where the week has been. And it's been a good week for the Asian equities as well, with outperformance coming from Japan and South Korea. But today, the Hang Seng has put its hand up among the list of outperformers, 0.7% higher. The Taiwanese index too trading with gains of well over 1%. The Nikkei, after the outsized gains yesterday, it cooled off from hitting record highs, almost now 500 points off the record high levels of plus 44,000 that it had hit earlier in yesterday's session. Still a 0.25% higher there, a 0.25% higher for the Shanghai indices as well. But it is the South Korean Kospi that has been an outperformer through and through in 2025 among the Asian indices, continues to do so, 1.5% higher on the Kospi as well, heading towards record high levels. So a positive screen for the Asian indices. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well. Started off on a slightly subdued note, but it has now built on to those gains, and the implied open is now suggesting a 50-point uptick for our own markets, and that is likely to mean that we will open above the mark of 24,900, but it remains to be seen. Now we're coming on the back of a 5-day winning streak as well, so whether the gains sustain at higher levels near that all-important mark of 25,000, that remains to be seen. Some flashes on your screen as well. The US federal judge has blocked Donald Trump from firing the US Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Remember, Donald Trump had asked for Lisa Cook to be fired over the allegations of mortgage fraud, and this latest verdict that has come in from the federal judge blocking Donald Trump's decision to fire the Federal Reserve Governor who was appointed during the tenure of former President Joe Biden. But to set you up for today's trading session for our own markets, our research team is here with how the trade setup looks like, stocks that are likely to be in the news, and of course we'll get you updates from the F&O side of things as well. Firstly, Vamakshi is here to tell us what we need to watch out for going into today's trading session. Vamakshi, good morning.
Well, good morning, Hormas. Let's first recap what actually happened in the markets yesterday. The markets, closed in the green. They ended at a 2-week high. Now, Nifty gained almost 95 points, and a similar gain was mirrored by the sensex. Now, IT stocks actually led the chart this time around, with Infosys up almost 5%, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, with some other stocks that did extremely well in the trading session yesterday. Pharma and FMCG, which were, underperforming last week, have managed to post modest gains, in yesterday's trading session. However, no support still coming in from the Nifty Bank. Now, the advanced decline ratio was marginally in favor of the declines. It was almost 1:1, and the broader markets, they continued to underperform. Now, the handover that came in from the US markets is actually quite positive. All three indices ended in the green and notched new closing highs. the GIFT Nifty is also mirroring that. A 50-point uptick is what we're expecting. But, today's trading session will be important to watch out how the market reacts to comments that came in from President Trump. Now, in a post on Truth Social, he said that India and US continue to trade, continue their trade negotiations. He looks forward to speaking with PM Narendra Modi and sees no difficulty in coming to a successful conclusion. But at the same time, he is urging the EU to impose 100% tariffs on India and US. So again, we'll have to wait for what exactly pans out. Now, as far as economic cues are concerned, take a look at the US PPI number today. This inflation number is extremely important. US crude oil inventories will also be something we'll be watching out for. Keystone Realtors will also be in focus. They will be considering fundraising through debentures. And the primary market, which has been buzzing off late, we see 3 new IPOs hitting the market. Urban Company being one of them, 1900 crores is the total issue size. Shringar House of Mangalsutra as well as Dave Accelerator are some of the other IPOs opening today.
Some interesting IPOs, of course, hitting the markets, but the implied open still suggesting a 50-point uptick. Over to Upasna now, who will list out the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for. Upasna, good morning.
Morning. First up, let me start with Bajaj Auto. The company has indicated that it will pass on the full GST benefit to the customers with effect from September 22nd. Hence, it has announced a price cut of nearly up to 22,000 on 20,000 on two-wheelers and up to 24,000 on three-wheeler range. Next up is Eicher Motors. Royal Enfield has also announced GST benefits to the customers with a reduction of up to 22,000 on the entire 350cc range. Next up is Sun Pharma. The US FDA has classified Sun Pharma's Halol facility as an OAI, that is official action indicated. Halol facilities under the import alert and shipments to US is refused. Next up is Thermax. It invests up to 115 crore in the renewable energy arm in First Energy Private Limited. Next up is Samvardhana Motherson. The company completes the acquisition of remaining 25% stake in the 2 Turkish subsidiaries. Now, Vikram Solar is the next one on our radar as the company has reported its Q1 FY26 numbers. It's overall been a strong set of numbers with a revenue uptick of 80% on a one-year basis, and margins have also expanded from 17.7 to 21.4%. Company also guides for a strong FY26 growth with a 4x capacity expansion. Next up is Sterling and Wilson. It has received LOA for an EPC package of 300 megawatt AC in Rajasthan worth nearly 415 crore. Now, according to sources on Kotak Mahindra Bank, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corp is likely to sell up to 1.6% stake in the company via block deal. Hence, this stock will also remain on our radar today. And lastly, according to sources on Blue Jet, OFS is launched to raise up to 400 crores and promoter Akshay Arora is likely to sell. And coming to Apex Food and Avanti Feeds, India's seafood export to get major boost from EU and approves 102 new Indian fishery establishments for exports to EU. Hence, these 2 stocks will also be on our focus today.
Upasna, thank you for that update. Lastly, Mangalam joins in with cues from the F&O space. Mangalam, good morning. Heading towards that elusive 25,000 mark on the Nifty, but what's the F&O data indicating today?
Yep, we are heading towards that 25,000 mark. That is exactly what the GIFT Nifty is indicating. It will be very interesting to see, how 2 sectors pan out, the IT space and the Nifty Bank. Why do I say that? Because it was the Nifty IT that, powered the index ahead. The Nifty actually saw a fairly decent expiry. We had about, 95 points in terms of gains that came by. The only fly in the ointment was the mid-cap end of things. We had, advanced declines more in favor of decliners than the advances. There were both inflows from DIIs and FIIs in the cash market, but that was on account of a couple of large trades. What was interesting is after a lot of selling, we saw the FIIs buy in index futures by a smidge. 280 crores is what they bought. They added about 1,800 long contracts. But remember, over the last 3 trading sessions, they've been increasing their long exposure marginally. From 7.4%, it's increased to 8% and now 8.7%. FII shorts still near record highs. So any sense of sustained move above 25,000 would lead to a massive short covering rally is what the expectation is. Yesterday, the Nifty closed above the 100-day moving average. Today, it opens above the 50-day moving average. The level we'll watch out for the Nifty Bank will be the 20-day moving average, which is about 500 points from where it is right now. Call writers are, expecting some sort of resistance come by immediately at the 25,000 mark. If that isn't the case to be, then we'll have around 25,100, which would see some supply. But if the market holds above these levels, there is a lot of fuel for short covering. At the lower level, supports have moved higher. Closer to 24,800 is where the support is. Trent is the only stock which I'm keeping an eye out on today because yesterday saw unusual selling and a lot of short positions being added there.
Mangalam, thank you for that update. More flashes on your screen with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi now responding to Donald Trump's tweet saying that India and the US are now close friends and natural partners. And he too has expressed confidence that these trade negotiations will pave the way for unlocking the limitless potential of the India-US partnership. And the teams are working to conclude these discussions at the earliest. And he's also mentioned that he too looks forward to speaking with President Trump and work together to secure a brighter and more prosperous future for both the citizens of the US and the citizens of India as well. So the Prime Minister responding to Donald Trump's post on Truth Social earlier this morning, where he spoke about the fact that he's looking forward to speaking with his good friend Prime Minister Modi, and that he sees no doubt or no hesitation that these trade negotiations will soon be concluded. And the Prime Minister there responding to Donald Trump's post on his social media handle on X. And that is the progress on these India-US trade negotiations. And there are a lot of other flashes as well, with sources also saying that these talks are now being fast-tracked is what our sources are picking up. Parikshit just reported about this. But take a short break. On the other side, we get you all the latest updates on these trade talks on Trump Watch. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, US President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social earlier in the morning that India and the US are continuing negotiations to address the trade barriers between the two countries, marking the second such remark he has made over the last few days with regards to his ties with India. He also added that he looks forward to speaking to his good friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the upcoming weeks, and that there would be no difficulty in arriving at a successful conclusion for both the nations. Now, on the flip side, CNBC International has confirmed that US President Trump told European officials that he is willing to impose sweeping new tariffs on India and China, and asked the European Union to hit China and India with tariffs of up to 100% to push Russian President Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table with regards to the war in Ukraine. But the US will only make such a gesture if the European nations do so as well. Now, the other potential measures to bring Putin to the negotiating table include further sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet of oil tankers, as well as restrictions on its banks, financial sectors, and major oil companies. Now, sources have said that India and the US officials are likely to have an exchange of trade delegations soon. Parikshit is joining in with more details on this. Parikshit, tell us, what are your sources telling you on this?
Well, sources are telling us that President Trump's statements are very positive, and they indicate that trade talks will now be back on track. There is the mood, there is the confidence and sentiment to restart trade negotiations, fast-track them, and conclude an early trade deal. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that he is still hopeful of having a bilateral trade agreement by November or the end of this year. And now these statements by the President, by Prime Minister Modi, indicate that things are on the right course as far as the trade negotiations go. We learned from highly informed sources that there is going to be an exchange of trade delegations, that is, a visit of the USTR team either to India or an Indian negotiating team led by Rajesh Agrawal, who's the Special Secretary in the Commerce Department, to visit the United States. The details are being worked out, but an in-person meeting, or what you call a sixth round of trade negotiations, is likely to be held within the next few weeks and this month itself, that is in the month of September. It's an important development. It shows an intent to resolve outstanding trade barriers. So let's see how things go. Things are moving ahead incrementally. Last week, we had seen President Trump making that positive statement in the White House while addressing a reporter's question. Now he's put out a post on Truth Social. So clearly, back-channel diplomacy is at work. Officials at the two sides have been engaged to take things to this level.
Parikshit, thank you for that very important update. Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says that more than 60% of the chapters of the India-EU FTA have been finalized. Speaking on the sidelines of an Indian Steel Association event, Goyal also said that he is hopeful that the FTA will be concluded substantially by the time the European Union Trade and Agricultural Commissioners come to India later this week. Listen in.
Almost 60-65% of the chapters also are now completed and finalized. By the time my counterpart, Mr. Maros Sherkovich, the EU Trade Commissioner, and Mr. Christoph, the EU Agriculture Commissioner, come to India, I think we'll be quite set to try and conclude the agreement substantially.
Meanwhile, in an exclusive interview with moneycontrol.com, IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav talks about the headwinds amidst the Trump tariff issues. Listen in.
You look at the entire world today, there is huge turmoil, there is turbulence, policy decisions are changing overnight, and the process which used to be followed in a multilateral, in a discussion, those kind of processes are today not very visible. So under such circumstances, the stability that India offers, that's huge. That's what is attracting a lot of investors to our shores.
Now, in the US markets, it was a positive session on Wall Street yesterday as well. The Dow Jones climbing over to close to 200 points. The S&P 500 now also inching towards its 22nd record high of 2025. The Nasdaq gaining another 80 points, ending at a record high for the tech-heavy index. CNBC's Mackenzie Sigalos gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
Markets were up across the major indexes Tuesday as investors tried to shake off concerns about the labor market. The Dow climbing 196, the S&P 500 higher 17, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq up 81. A new preliminary report from the Labor Department found that the U.S. job market was much weaker in 2024 and earlier this year than originally reported. The annual revisions to payrolls data from the year prior through March 2025 showed a drop of 911,000 from the initial estimates. That's at the high end of Wall Street expectations. In a statement, the White House said Tuesday's revisions were proof of the need for new leadership at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which prepares the government's monthly jobs data. Private markets firm Carlyle announced a new partnership Tuesday with Formula One's Red Bull racing team. As part of the agreement, which was announced on Tuesday, Carlyle's branding will be added to the Red Bull racing car, driver uniforms, and pit land walls. The partnership will ramp up Carlyle's exposure to high net worth individuals as it seeks to grow its wealth business. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Mackenzie, thank you for that update. Now, the U.S. payrolls growth through March has been revised sharply lower. The U.S. economy likely created over 9 lakh fewer jobs than previously estimated, which suggests that the job growth was already stalling before the Trump tariffs came into effect. Here's what experts have to say on the health of the U.S. economy and its jobs market.
Goldman Sachs Economics view the 3 Fed cuts from now to the end of the year, another 2 cuts in the first half of next year. So that's a tailwind for some of the companies, in particular with high magnitude of floating rate debt, therefore lowering their interest expense. Your question about whether that would be a headwind for some of the economic growth, yes, that would certainly be a story there, which is why the observations about the industrial or the, if you will, tech capex is so important, Sarah. For that to persist is a source of demand for both revenues for these companies and for earnings.
Take a short break. Cues from the commodities market on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, Apple hosted its awe-dropping event where it unveiled the latest lineup of devices. The spotlight was on the new iPhone 17 series, which featured the biggest design update in years, along with performance and camera improvements. CNBC's Steve Kovac has more on this.
Apple went back to basics at its annual iPhone event on Tuesday. Forget about AI. Apple is focusing on hardware again, launching a new iPhone design for the first time in 5 years. That would be the iPhone Air, which Apple says is its thinnest iPhone model yet. and still just as powerful as its Pro phones. We'll see if that model is enticing enough, though, to bring the iPhone business back to steady growth. Beyond the iPhone Air, the other three models were what you would expect, modest updates over last year's models. The iPhone 17 comes with a better camera, smoother screen resolution, and better battery life. And the two Pro models have a redesigned camera system and improved performance. As for pricing, the Pro got a $100 increase, while the other models stayed the same price as last year. And the iPhone Air will start at $999, which is the same price Pro phones used to cost. Those price increases will help offset Apple's tariff costs while improving margins and sales growth. Beyond the iPhone, we have some wearables as well. The new AirPods Pro 3 now feature heart rate tracking and use artificial intelligence for real-time translation. And the Apple Watch Series 11 can connect to 5G networks and alert you if it detects high blood pressure. With pre-orders starting this week and sales starting next week, we now look for our first reads on demand for Apple's latest slate of products. Apple Intelligence didn't turn out to be the boost the iPhone business needed last year, but perhaps going back to basics with enticing new hardware will do the trick this time.
Steve Kovach, thank you for that update. Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the commodity news. Manisha, good morning. What's on your radar today?
Well, gold never ceases to make a headline, really, and we've seen an all-time high yet again for the prices, $3,675 announced right now. So it has been another $40 of a gain overnight when it comes to gold there. Well, the labor data has been weak, and the markets now seem to be pricing in 3 rate cuts in 2025, and that clearly has been supportive. What we also have seen overnight is the jump in crude oil prices. Israel's attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar led the crude prices gaining by 2%. And then there have been various statements as well. U.S. President asking Europe to impose tariffs on buyers of Russian oil. Trump actually is urging European Union to impose 100% tariffs on China and India. And that is something that the markets will keep an eye on as we move ahead in the day. Apart from that, we are also looking at EIA suggesting that the global inventories are rising. The U.S. inventories are on the higher side, and the OPEC Plus also hiking output would ensure there are enough and more supplies to cater to any supply disruption in case that we see from Russia for the near term.
Manisha, thank you for that update from the commodities market. Both Brent and WTI trading with gains of close to 1%. Now, veteran BJP leader C.P. Radhakrishnan, who also served as the governor of Maharashtra and Jharkhand, is the next vice president of India. A member of the RSS, Radhakrishnan started his political career with the Jan Sangh. His victory against opposition's B. Sudarshan Reddy was a foregone conclusion since the NDA had the required numbers in parliament. And with that, we come to an end of this extremely action-packed edition of Power Breakfast. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call on the other side to set you up for the day's trade and to carry out all these developments forward as well.